Good afternoon, everybody. We've got our first keynote session. This one's with Paul Haddow. So I'm just going to bring Paul in. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Lee.
Okay, so you're going to talk about intelligent infrastructure and how that can help organizations, especially when they're actually going through this digital transformation type project.
Exactly.
So I'll leave you to it, and I'll bring up your slides.
Perfect. So hello, everyone, and thanks a lot for the introduction, Lee. So I'm Paul Haddow, and I'm the Sales Engineering Director for EMEA for Tintri. And I'm going to give you a quick intro into who Tintri are, why we're relevant, and a brief overview of our technology lineup to help to demonstrate how we can enable digital transformation. So Tintri is a wholly owned subsidiary of Data Direct Networks, also known as DDN. And if you didn't know, DDN is one of the largest privately owned storage companies in the world, and it has been one of the market leaders in HPC and AI for over 20 years. And DDN have competed and beat usual suspects like IBM and HP and in some of the highest performing HPC applications. And as a company, we deliver around $500 million a year in revenue, whilst being profitable. And additionally, DDN continue to work with industry leaders around AI and deep machine analytics. And as an example, NVIDIA, one of the market leaders in this space, has standardized their 15 petabyte AI pod on DDN storage to help accelerate AI and machine learning solutions with GPUs. And over the last sort of 5 or so years, DDN saw that there's been a significant increase in enterprise companies using HPC-like deep machine learning techniques and technology to better leverage analytics to transform their IT and improve business outcomes. And because of this, at the end of 2018, Tintri purchased Tintri as their first enterprise solution to help to begin to address these growing business requirements and to address enterprise virtual server, virtual desktop, and database environments. Now, it took Tintri from a struggling public company to a profitable private company in just 1 year. And if you look at profitability, this is something that most storage and HCI vendors have still not been able to achieve in decades of operation. So after the successful acquisition of Tintri, subsequently DDN then acquired another 2 additional companies in 2019 and 2020, further expanding DDN's AI and ML solutions into the enterprise space. So these acquisitions have been Tintri, Nexenta, and Intelliflash. And Tintri is now the overall brand for the enterprise division of DDN, with an aim to deliver intelligent infrastructure to organizations. And underneath this brand, we have a fantastic portfolio of products to deliver solutions to transform our organization's IT environments. And these products are VM Store, which is a VM native flash storage solution focusing on 100% virtualized environments. Intelliflash, a performance-driven general purpose and VM-aware solution, delivering cost-effective, low latency with NVMe, flash, and hybrid options. And then we have a Nexenta Store, which is a software-defined storage solution for extreme flexibility. And with this product set, our aim is really to deliver agility to our customers' IT teams, which enables them to provide access to their organization's data with various methods and protocols, giving them back control of their storage environment. And with our self-service driven management tools, we can deliver certainty that with intelligent storage infrastructure, our customers can deliver unprecedented insights and drive value into their IT environments. So what is intelligent infrastructure that I've mentioned, and how can that enable digital transformation of an organization's IT environment? So as a term, it's a relatively new term that Gartner coined about a year ago when they created it as a category. And yet Tintri have been talking about intelligent infrastructure since 2009. So we see Gartner sees intelligent infrastructure as something that optimizes infrastructure resources for the application consumption through the use of infrastructure machine learning and applying tuning as software overlays. And that by 2022, intelligent infrastructure is going to add infrastructure, machine learning, analytics, and artificial intelligence for IT operations, also known as AI ops, as software overlays on top of hardware-based composable integrated systems. So, how do we, Tintri, deliver on this message? So in our world of enterprise infrastructure, organizations are deploying more infrastructure than ever before. Even with cloud adoption, there's more infrastructure being deployed into customers' data centers than ever before. And, there's really no signs of that slowing down. But when you look at the budgets and the people to manage them, they're flat. And in fact, a lot of our customers are actually telling us that these budgets are actually shrinking, especially in this current worldwide pandemic situation. And also qualified people to run infrastructure are in relatively short supply as well. So in an attempt to kind of bridge this gap, some organizations have tried to use automation and orchestration delivered by DevOps. But we as an industry are not able to cover this gap entirely with a bunch of guys writing scripts in the dark. And even saying that, a lot of enterprise companies don't even have the budget or the skills in DevOps to bridge that gap entirely. Which means this gap can and only will be covered by injecting intelligence into the data center. And AI ops, meaning artificial intelligent operations, is the journey that's going to cross that chasm. And AI ops is delivered by deploying intelligent infrastructure, hence driving digital transformation. So, how does intelligent infrastructure enable AI ops and digital transformation? Well, if we look at a typical IT stack as shown here, the upper layers of the IT stack are being covered by some other vendors today, like Splunk, ServiceNow, and each vendor has its own tools to manage a specific layer, but it quite often doesn't have much visibility into and beyond the layer directly or above or below. And this means that multiple tools are required, which can create management complexity and inhibit invisibility across the whole stack. So, Tintri Intelligent Infrastructure manages data structures at the storage layer for virtual machines, containers, databases, and applications. And by taking log data from various levels of this stack into the Tintri OS, we're able to deliver insights wider and deeper into the infrastructure stack, which really enables us to derive actions that will provide and improve performance, capacity, efficiency, and operations throughout the stack. Now, VMstore does this already for virtual machine and SQL database environments better than any other storage vendor in the industry. And the addition of Intelliflash and Store build on these capabilities for block and file environments, virtual and physical environments, as well as for container-based architectures for microservices. And with this ethos of intelligent infrastructure in mind, Tintri is really dedicated in its mission to transform our customers' businesses by transforming their storage. And if you look at storage, it's a necessary evil, but it is the foundation of any and every IT stack. And like the foundations of a building, it really underpins everything on top of it. And if the foundations of a building are not suitable, then the building is going to be structurally unsound, and worst case, it's going to collapse. And similarly, if the storage foundation of an IT stack isn't sufficient, then the overall IT stack is going to be unstable, no matter how good the applications, compute, or networking that are built on top of it are. So Tintri has an extremely set of strong and robust products that define the fundamental building blocks at the foundation of constructing a fully intelligent infrastructure stack. And that's what we're kind of going to discuss next. So as explained, Tintri has this industry-leading best-of-breed product portfolio with the VMstore, Intelliflash, and Store. And we're going to concentrate today in this session and on in the breakout sessions later on the appliance-based products, VMstore and Intelliflash. However, the capabilities of Intelliflash and Store are currently being rolled together to provide a flexible appliance and software-defined portfolio later on this year. So let's start with VMstore. VMstore is really storage that doesn't work like a storage array. There's no LUNs, there's no shares or any other common storage settings. You manage everything at the virtual machine level. And in concept, it works much more like a hypervisor. And one of the core design principles of hypervisors was that you don't create one giant physical host. What would be the point in that? So why do we scale storage like that in these environments? So VM Store allows IT teams to forget about storage and focus on the VMs and applications, because, to be honest, that's what actually adds value to the business. It really helps to simplify growth, and you can buy storage resources the same way you buy compute resources now, adding capacity or performance on demand, with no more disk groups, RAID configurations, policies, tiers, LUNs, or volumes. So there's going to be a lot more detail on this product in the breakout sessions later, but I'm going to call out 3 key differentiators for intelligent infrastructure with VM Store. And the first of these is predictable performance, which we deliver with our really unique workload isolation and dynamic performance quality of service. And if you look at it, VM Store's operational efficiency is really where we shine. Running high performance storage for virtual machines can be incredibly hard, and VM Store is that easy button. So it is essentially doing for the allocation of storage resources what a hypervisor does for the allocation of CPU and memory resources. And by treating virtual machines as first-class citizens at that storage layer, VM Store analyzes each individual virtual machine. It automatically determines how much resources need to be allocated to each VM based on its workload characteristics like block size, IOPS, read-write ratio, etc. And it then allocates just enough resources to each VM so that every one gets 1 millisecond latency or less across them all. Now, this adaptive process happens in real time and across hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of virtual machines, and eliminates noisy neighbors, meaning VM Store is really dynamic, just like the virtual machines that are running on top of it are. The second point here is, complete visibility that we deliver with our real-time predictive analytics. And, VM Store as a product gives incredibly detailed visualizations and helps to troubleshoot IT environments. If you look at your hypervisor, does it tell you if your virtual machine has host, network, or storage latency? No, it just shows you what is happening at the virtual machine level. And then if you look at your storage array, does that show you what is happening at the virtual machine level? No, it's just showing you what happens at the LUN or the share level. And any VM level statistics that you might be seeing there is just grabbed from the hypervisor itself. Now with VM Store, we can show you where in the stack the latency that you might be experiencing is actually coming from, i.e. is it the host, is it the network, is it the replication, or is it coming from the storage itself on the appliance? And what this means to customers is that they can really find performance bottlenecks in seconds without these long drawn out troubleshooting processes and finger pointing meetings, as we call them, between the application, the infrastructure, and network and the storage teams. And as described previously, the VM Store is monitoring and calculating performance and capacity requirements for each individual virtual machine in this environment. And then we feed all of this data into our cloud analytics platform that can then use all of that data to predict and model how adding new virtual machines and or other applications into your IT environment would affect that existing environment. And we can quite easily detect that if this addition of the applications or additional virtual machines would push the storage environment beyond the current storage performance or capacity capabilities, customers can then go through the Tintri analytics capabilities and model scaling their environments to understand how to meet those future capacity and performance needs. And this Tintri analytics will show you before you commit to spend a single pound, dollar, or euro, so you never have to overbuy storage again, allowing IT teams to really provision with precision. And then the last point on this slide is, what we can do with productivity through seamless scalability. And, a lot of other vendors in the market actually talk a lot about scale. And Tintri really just simply delivers the scalability. You can start very small and you can scale up, and you can expand the capacity of your VM store in this way by just adding one disk at a time, with zero impact to performance or availability. And then if you need both capacity and performance, Tintri VM stores can federate together with Tintri Global Center, also known as TGC, in a scale-out cluster format. And then once we have this scale-out cluster, TGC then monitors the whole environment, and it can determine if certain VMs need to move around within this cluster for capacity and or performance reasons. And it does this by making recommendations as well as documenting the benefits and the possible impacts of those actions to the administrators. So once you have those recommendations, the administrators can then execute those at a push of a button, and all of that is going to be carried out completely automatically by TGC. And TGC will even offload the migration of those VMs from the hypervisor down to direct array-to-array communication, which really helps free up the precious hypervisor host and networking resources that are often in short supply in environments. We also, with these tools, optimize disaster recovery and development time with advanced per VM snapshot, cloning, and disaster recovery features. So with VMstore, all snaps and DR replication are done not at the LUN or the share level, they're done at the virtual machine level, and not like a traditional storage array at what VMware will see as a data store level. And what this means is that all of the policies and profiles that go with the virtual machines are portable with it, which means that if you ever do move things around within your environment, you don't have to go through reprovisioning all of that. You can maintain the SLA because the policies and the profile are portable with the virtual machine. And then it also helps spinning up as well as refreshing existing snaps and clones almost instantaneously, which does a couple of things really. It speeds up recovery processes, and it also helps to severely reduce development cycles within organizations. So now on to Intelliflash. Whilst VMstore is what I would call VM native, because it's being built from the ground up as storage for virtualization, Intelliflash is more what I would call VM aware, with added flexibility for physical workloads as well. So it's natively VM aware for Hyper-V and VMware. And whilst it doesn't have all of the automation and capabilities of a VMstore, it does have per VM performance monitoring with trending information that stretches back days, weeks, months, or even years, allowing customers to understand the future. It's also very flexible with a range of hybrid, all-flash, dense flash, and NVMe options, and it scales from just a few terabytes to multi-petabytes in a very small footprint. And this density and the performance we can drive out of this solution means it has, one of the highest performance value ratios in the market today. It's also secure by design, with hardware encryption as standard on the majority of the range, plus zero impact hardware snapshots and a secure central management console, which really helps to provide protection against threats such as encryption viruses. And again, we're going to go into a lot more detail into what Intelliflash does and how it delivers it in the later breakout sessions today. But I'm going to call out three key intelligent infrastructure differentiators with Intelliflash here now. So the first of these is how we deliver consistent low latency with our NVMe and memory optimized controller architecture. And I quite often say today to customers, anyone can do a million IOPS. It's really a matter of whether you want to wait for seconds, milliseconds, or microseconds for that IO. And what we found is with NVMe type arrays, you can get both high IOPS and microsecond latency because they're not mutually exclusive anymore for these performance sensitive applications. And then we can always add extra capacity you need to address business critical applications without impacting performance. So you can keep loading these arrays up and we can just keep delivering performance as you scale. Now, our NVMe and memory optimized architecture along with our patented metadata separation, aggregation, and acceleration capabilities, really allows organizations to run applications at light speed, allowing them to run every workload at the speed of memory. And then the second point here is around the global insight through the cloud-based analytics. And Tintri Analytics for Intelliflash is doing similar job to what we do with the VM store. It's gathering information from arrays across the world to offer insights into application and the storage infrastructure. So it does provide per VM intelligence with capacity and performance monitoring, which maximizes application uptime and efficiency. And like with VM store, it's really allowing IT teams to troubleshoot in seconds and deliver that provisioning with precision, which also follows on that because we have this information available to the customers, our support teams also see all of this information, and we can deliver a true proactive support capability, not just a call home function, which is what you see in the rest of the industry. Now we have at the moment two different products that have two different analytical platforms, and what we're actually doing right now is taking both of these analytical platforms for VM Store and Intelliflash, and we're currently integrating them into one holistic analytical platform that will operate across the whole of the Tintri range. And when people talk about synergy today, it's often a bit of a cliche, but in this case, the combination of both platforms together will definitely be bigger and better than the sum of the two parts. And then with Intelliflash, it's very, very flexible. It's a modern software architecture. It's got unified block and file, and we've also got object capabilities on the roadmap coming pretty soon. And this provides more consolidation and increased data center and hybrid cloud efficiency. And with our superior inline data reduction, we help to shrink footprint, lower power and cooling, and hence reduce costs in customers' environments. And this flexibility with hybrid solutions, all-flash solutions, and NVMe solutions, which can actually also be combined into multiple pool solutions that we call flybrid configurations, really allow customers to combine the benefits of high-performance NVMe with low latency with the economics of SAS, flash, and hard drive capacity to scale as needed without impacting performance and reducing costs. And as I mentioned before, it's also multi-protocol, having the abilities to run iSCSI, Fiber Channel, NFS, SMB, and soon S3 as well, all at the same time out of the same system. And then, as I mentioned earlier on in the session, very soon it's also going to be available not just as an appliance, but also as software-defined storage to be run on a customer's own industry standard hardware of choice. So looking at that, it's very, very flexible. It really is what I would call the Swiss Army knife of our portfolio. So here's a very small sample of the thousands of customers who have chosen Tintri. If you look at Autodesk, they're running 200,000 virtual machines, some of which are powered by GPUs as well, across multiple hypervisors and workloads. And what VM Store has really allowed them to do is shift away from a traditional IT provisioning model to a software as a service type business model for their internal IT, making things much more efficient. Schuberg Phillips are an Intelliflash customer, and when they deployed NVMe arrays in their environment, they actually saw not 100%, 100 times latency reduction from 30 milliseconds down to 0.3 milliseconds across their internal cloud architectures. And what they didn't understand when they first saw this was, their IOPS actually went down. They thought their IOPS would go through the roof when they had a faster storage array, but because they no longer had any application queues, the applications happened in a more, the IOPS happened in a more timely manner, and their IOPS actually reduced across their infrastructure drastically. And then finally, I'll call out on this slide Dropbox. They're a cloud company. They have VM Store. They live and die by the cloud, do lots of software development. And what they were finding is when they were doing this software development, they were actually spending a lot of time re-provisioning test dev environments with the latest production data. And it was actually causing big delays in being able to actually, do their software development. And with VM Store, using our advanced snapshot and cloning features, they're able to, every 15 minutes spin up thousands and update thousands of clones to, improve the efficiency to their test dev environments, which has helped to cut their software development cycles in half. So hopefully this session today, as a starting point, has helped you, see how Tintri is, really helping customers to experience something different and make infrastructure intelligent. So it's not just a necessary evil, but something more of a competitive edge, helping them on the journey of digital transformation. So we're going to be giving a bit more detail on the individual product sets in the breakout sessions later this afternoon. So for now, I'd like to thank you all for your time and attention, and hand back over to Lee to introduce the next session.
Thank you very much. That was a great session. Really interesting to understand how the intelligent infrastructure piece fits into a digital transformation session project, because it's really important for a lot of organizations to have the right infrastructure to make sure that they can actually deliver performance, but also high availability, because I think that's one of the key things people forget when you look at these digital transformation projects, that everything is now being run through these web-based services, so that if you don't have that performance, you're going to have very unhappy customers and internal users. But secondly, if it fails, even worse. We need to make sure that we don't have any failure in that type of service. One of the things I think that's also quite important is the amount of people that are getting issues around things like ransomware attacks and things as well. And that's one of the things that Tintri also can help with, the ability to snapshot and recover quickly from a snapshot. So I think that's also an additional benefit in these type of organizations. And I'm assuming, Paul, you've seen that with some of your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with VM Store, doing that at the virtual machine level rather than the London share level, you're able to actually pick and choose the infected machines and not have to roll everything back to a previous time point. You can just pick and choose the services that have been compromised for the rollback. So you get that much bigger level of granularity and allows you to recover more quickly with less impact to the business, for sure.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks ever so much. That was a great session. And say we're going to move over to our breakout sessions now. So we've got a number of breakout sessions. So the first set, we've got Chris Wales talking a bit more about the VM native capabilities of the Tintri Intelliflash Intellistore platform. We're also got Friso Hedemar talking about containerization and utilizing containers for an agile development for digital transformation. So please go over to the sessions ready to go. They're all kicking off at the moment, and we'll catch you all later. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.